Yo guys, welcome to a new video, and this is a question I got asked about how to handle drawdown. And I've made a quick presentation. I'm gonna try out this style, so let me know if this is helpful again, and if you like this style of me teaching. The way I want these videos to work is for you to ask me questions, and instead of me just answering them in the DM, which I can, again, my DMs are always open. Just make a video on it where I can go into more depth and just let my ideas loose and just speak. So when it comes to handling drawdown, me personally, I don't believe that there is just one way. Like, I can't just tell you one thing, do that, and boom. In my opinion, it's a it's a combination of things that you need to understand about the markets, about your system, about yourself, that help you handle drawdown. And yes, it may be difficult and it takes time, but that's the thing with trading. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it's easy and you can just learn boom in a day. Like, it's not like that. It takes time and development. So yeah, enough of me, but let me just get into the next slide, which is my four core foundations for handling drawdown. Now, the first is trust. Having trust in your system and process is very important. The second is journaling, having data and previous data to look back on. And the third is acceptance, understand the markets and the nature of them, and that drawdown and these periods are normal. And risk is where people would like to play with risk in drawdown. And for me, I think that this can be a problem, and it can lead to problems. Now, I'm going to go into depth for all of these, but these are like some of the four core areas which I think you need to understand and know well for yourself and for your system, and apply all of these ideas to handling drawdown. So let's just get into trust. So the first thing you need is trust in your system. And this takes time to build trust. When you meet a new person and you know them for one day, you don't know how they're going to react in certain situations and how they're going to be, because with time, your system and how it's going to react in drawdown, how it's going to be in winning areas. How much can you win? Is your average usually 5 losses in a row? Is that your average losing streak? Is your average winning streak 5 wins in a row? You need to understand how your system reacts, and you need to build that trust. This is why you need trust and time to allow that to build up. And the next point, which is journaling, which I'll get into, is so important, because a lot of people come to me with their system and they're like, oh, I'm struggling, I'm in drawdown, I don't know what to do, I don't know if I'm doing things wrong. I just tell them to trade, because when I ask them how long have you been doing this for, they tell me, oh, it's only been a month with my system, I've only taken 10-20 trades. And I just tell them, no, you have to take more trades. You need as much trades as you can, the more the better. You cannot judge a system based off 1 month, 2 month, 3 months, 6 months, even a year's worth of data. It needs to be a lot of data compounded, and that is why the third point is data, which is important, I'll go into. But you cannot be judging a system based on short-term performance, and that is why you need trust. And again, do you trust someone after a month? Maybe yes, but to have proper secure trust in someone, you need to know them for a long period of time. You need to go down and up. You need to have ups and downs with that person. You need to see their side, their angry side, their bad side, and you need to see their good side. And that's how you build trust with people. So it's the same with your system. And being with your system for a month, when maybe the whole month was good, you haven't seen the bad side of the system yet. You don't know how bad that side can get. You don't know how much losses in a row you could get. You don't know the limitations and the barriers. With a person, you know how far you can take a joke before they get find it personal. You know how far they can take this. You know how far they can take that. It's the same with your system. And how do you get that? Through time. You gain trust through time. So you need to have your system tested for a long period of time. And I know it can be hard, and we all just want to rush into it, but you just have to get it done. So if you do make a system and you manage to go through drawdown early, just keep trading, please. And if you can make it out of that drawdown, that is amazing. Because you see, with drawdown, a lot of people, they see it as a bad thing, but that is probably some of the best time as a trader. Maybe not mentally, but that is where your real trading skill gets tested. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but when you're winning, and you're on a winning streak, you're winning every trade, everything's going well, you can call the market, everything's moving your way. If you're watching this and you're going through that right now, what have you learned? You haven't really learned anything. Your emotions aren't being tested. Yes, they are subconsciously, but you're not really thinking about, oh, what do I need to do next? Because everything's going right for you, you're winning. But when you're in losing period and you start losing and you start taking those losses, that is when you start thinking, oh my, everything's going against me. And those are the periods and times where people blow accounts, blow fundeds, lose it all in a day. It always happens when you're in those drawdowns or bad periods. If you have a winning day and you're happy, most people, if you're not greedy, you'll take the rest of the week off. You'll be happy. You'll be like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. It's a good week, blah blah blah. But when you're in those drawdown, that is when the psychology and those things of like, oh, should I take another trade? That self-sabotage starts to creep in. Those thoughts start to creep in, and this is why you need trust in what you do, because so when those bad period comes, you trust what your system is to get you through that, and you just have to keep trading. If you have a friend and you trust them deeply, when you get in a bad situation, you should be able to trust them to get you out of that situation or to do something. Maybe that's not a good example, but I hope you understand what I mean. You have that trust in something to work out in the long run, if that makes sense. When you look for the weather, it's going to say it's very hot on Friday. You trust the weather because you've been looking at the weather for the past 20 years and it's been, pretty much correct. So when it says it's going to be sunny on Friday, it's most likely, and you trust that because you've built the trust over a long period of time. If there was never ever a weatherman and someone randomly one day just said, oh, I'm going to start predicting the weather, and he's like, next week is going to be sunny, you're going to be like, okay, do I really trust you? Where do you you don't have any proof, for me to trust you to say, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm going to trust you. So it's the same with your system. You need time and trust to prove that it works. And that is why my next point is journaling, because journaling is where the proof is set of your system. Journaling is important because it becomes a storage place, and it also builds the history which you want to be able to look back on. Hence why it's so important to do the journal. Hence why it's so important that the journaling you do is correct, because then in future it's valuable data you can be able to look back on, and in drawdown periods you can say, I've done this before and I can do it again. And what I mean by that is every time you're in a drawdown period, you register that into your journal, so that when you come out of it and you're in a good period and then you come back into a drawdown period, you can now look back and say, okay, I've been in a drawdown period before and I've worked my way out of it. And then you do that again, and now that's 2. So the more case studies you build up for yourself, you're proving to yourself, and you're also at the same time you're trusting your system and trusting yourself that you've done it before and you can do it again. If you see a guy who can juggle 4 oranges, and he's got pictures and videos of him doing it again and again and again, you're going to believe that he can do it, and you have that trust and that he's going to do it again in front of you. And that was a bad analogy, but that is essentially what you want with your system. You want to have a good journal to then be able to look back on it and say, I've done it before, I can get myself out of drawdown. I've had a 4% drawdown, and it took me 1 week to get out of it. I just need to follow my system, because essentially that's all it is. When you're in drawdown, the only way to get out should be to follow your system. It shouldn't be to over leverage. It shouldn't be to add more trades. It shouldn't be to play with your system, play with the risk. It should be to continue with the system to get you out, because then you're proving that your system works and it can get you out of the drawdown. And that is simply all it is. I hope that made sense for journaling, because it's just so important. Again, I'll reiterate that having the trust comes from the journal and from data and all of this stuff. And let me go into data a bit more. It's like with a journal, if you've got 100 trades, yeah, and you've got many losses and many wins, Now you can pick out the average. So how many losses have you taken on average, your max losing streak? So if that's 4, you know that if you now go into a losing streak, you know that the max you could go, obviously you can go more, but on average you go 4 losses. So now you know if you go into a drawdown period and you know that your average max losses is 4, then if you hit 4 losses, obviously, yes, again, you can more. I'm not just saying you're just going to stop out at max losses. You know that, okay, from now, maybe this is where it could start to change. And, I'm not saying, again, that just because your average max losses is 4, that every time you hit 4 losses, you're now just going to win again. That's not what I'm saying. But now you know the average and you kind of have more trust and understanding of how your system reacts in these drawdown periods, which is what I was saying earlier, if that makes sense. And the same with winning, vice versa for winning. If you know that you take 2 wins in a row before you have 1 loss, and then you have another 2 wins in a row before 1 loss, you understand your system more and you gain more trust for it, and you understand more of how it works in good periods, in bad periods, and that all puts together and is trust in the system. Because if you have so much data and you've proved that I've done it again and again and again, all you have to do is, when you're in a drawdown period, follow the system and get yourself out of it again, just like how you did all those other times. And a reason why people mess up is because they don't have the good journal. And this is why it's so important, I haven't mentioned it yet, that you journal properly. And what you put in your journal is proper data, and don't be messing around with your trades. This is why it's so important to stick to the system. Because what I mean by that is, someone can have 4 losses in a row and then you over leverage and do some silly trade and make all your profits back, and you'll put that in the journal. But that isn't your system. That was you gambling and messing around. Or you'll take some dumb losses, you'll start trying to revenge trade and take extra losses. Yes, you're meant to put that in the journal, but now you're just playing with it all, if that makes sense. Because those losses and those wins shouldn't have even been there. So now your data is all messed up, and now if you want to, in the future, if you want to look back on it, you don't have valid or correct data that you can actually, fall back on. So that is why it's so important that the data you journal is proper data from you following your actual system, not from you gambling or you doing some stupid thing with your emotions, because otherwise that's just emotional data. That's not proper data. The data in your journal has to be proper trading data, and that can only be found by following your system. So I hope the journaling made sense on why time trust journaling is so important. And again, always, if you still don't understand, feel free to message me and I'll be able to break it down more for you. The next thing is acceptance. You need to accept and understand that drawdowns are normal and it will happen in any system to any trader, no matter how good of a trader you are. It is important to understand that when drawdown it is important to understand this, so that when a drawdown period comes or a losing streak comes, you know that this is normal. Okay? Now, and if you look into any long-term track record, proper track records, I'm not saying these because there's weird ones that just win. The proper ones, they all have down periods. Warren Buffett, they have down periods, and these guys even have bad years. Like, imagine losing for a whole year. That can happen to you, and that's just part of the system and the edge and what people have. Trading, people think that once you're profitable, it's just win. No, you're still gonna have these bad periods. It's all just a probabilities game, basically. And the likelihood of losing is the same as winning. Now, what I mean by that is, you all want winning streaks. If I said, do you want a winning streak, you'll say yeah. But if I say you want a losing streak, you want no. And obviously, you don't want it. But the likelihood of it happening is pretty much the same. Obviously, yes, you do have that edge, that long term. Over time, you will come out on top. But you can't pick and choose. Everyone wants 5 wins in a row to be the best trader. I've made so much profit. But when it's 5 losses in a row, I don't want that. How do I get out of myself that? You need to accept that this is normal in trading. And this doesn't sell courses. People don't speak about this stuff because it's not what people want to hear. People don't care and they don't want to hear, I don't care. I'm going to find a system that wins all the time. Because people have this mindset and they think that they can find something where they can win even 80% of the time. And that is not true. People think, oh, I'll just lose a bit, I'll always make money in the markets, I'll kill it every week. And the way social media is set is wrong. And another thing I didn't put in the PowerPoint is stay off social media when you're in drawdown periods. Just go and do your own thing, just relax, maybe take some time off, spend time with family, do things you love, go do sports, and then come back to the charts. Because if you stay on social media, you'll see people winning, and that is not true. Majority of what you see online is fake, and people are not always winning, and it'll make you feel like, I'm not doing enough, what I'm doing is wrong, maybe I need to change it, and you'll have these thoughts. So when you're in a losing period, stay off Twitter, because that is, for me, is, Twitter, you got everyone's making money on Twitter somehow. Stay off social media, enjoy time with family and friends, and do whatever you want, and then come back to the market. Just stay off social media. So I hope you understood what I meant about time, trust, journaling, and acceptance. Because again, drawdown is gonna happen no matter where you are in your career. It is gonna happen, and you need to understand and accept that. Like, you can't avoid it. It's like trying to avoid farting. Like, we're all gonna fart, okay? As much as you don't want to fart in your lifetime, you might not want to fart, you are gonna fart. As much as you trying to hold it in and you can do this and try to avoid it, you are going to fart eventually, alright? So it's just something you can't, prevent. Just accept it and know that the only way to get out is to follow the system. The way to get out of drawdown isn't to over leverage, over trade, do this, do that. It is just simply to follow your system. Because if you have the trust, which I was talking about, which is why I'm saying you need all these things together to get out of drawdown. You need the trust, you need the journaling to fall back on, to look back and to trust and to say, I'm just going to trust, and boom. Yeah. If you have a driver and he's been driving for 50 years, or a pilot who's have 50 years of pilot proof, and you can look and say, oh, he's flown all these planes for the past 50 years, you trust him. If you're in a storm and the plane is shaking that you can trust him to say, oh, okay, he's going to get me to my destination safely. No matter if the plane is shaking, you trust that the pilot has that 50 years experience and is going to get you out. So if you have a 70% win rate, and that over X amount of trades, over X amount of period, you are going to come out with a 70% win rate, then just let that win rate play out. Don't mess with it. You're just going to mess up with your stats more. As much as I'm saying it, I know it might just fly over people's heads and people are just going to learn the hard way. But please just stick to the system and journal properly. Please don't mess with your journal and your stats. Please just do the right thing, because you'll save months and weeks and losses and accounts and money just by sticking to these simple rules. And I know it's easier said than done, and a lot of people like to learn the hard way, but please just take my advice and do it. As hard as it can be, just stick to the system. And now a risk. Now this is a big thing a lot of people talk about, and this is like adjusting risk when you're in drawdown. A lot of people wanna drop risk when they're in drawdown to make it back, and I understand the concept and why it's safe, yes, but again, if you have that trust and the journaling and your results show that over time you will come out on top, and you have that good win rate and you know what you're doing, then why do you need to drop the risk? Do you not trust your system enough? To me, dropping risk is trying to say that I'm not comfortable enough with my system. I feel like something could still go wrong, when it can't. If you're following your system and you have that edge in the market, you will come out on top. So just let probabilities play out, because if you're dropping risk, you're just playing with your edge now, and now when you make X amount of profit, it's now halved, you see. And I'm going to show you an example in the next page, because I really don't understand why people need to drop risk. I don't understand. I do understand the concept of it and why people do, but it's not needed. Like, this is why trust is so important, because yes, you can drop risk even though you're comfortable with your system, and I do understand why people say it and tell you to do it. It's the safest thing to do. But if you have that edge, and you have that edge over a long period of time, then don't do it. Like, just stick to the plan, because I'll give you the example. Okay, I don't know why there's a timer, but this is your risk per trade, the normal 1%, and this is the drawdown, and this is it through trades. So just follow my mouse. So if you're in a 3% drawdown and the next trade you take is 1.5%, let's say you aim for 1.5 or R, and then you win the next trade, which is 1.5%, you have now cleared your drawdown. And then the next trade you lose it, which is a 1% loss, which now you're down minus only 1, and then the next trade you win. After all that, you are still up 0.5%. And then imagine you go on to win the next trade, you are now up 2%. But if you came into a 3% drawdown and then you was like, okay, now let me drop it to a 0.5 risk, the next trade you'd win 75%. These are the exact same stats. You'd win the next 7.5%, and then you lose 0.5, and then you win 0.5. You're still down 1.25%. So to come out of that, you need to still win another like 2 more trades. And why go through all that hassle when if you just stuck to normal risk, your edge would have played out and you would have now been up again? Now this is where you're playing with your stats, and why this is bad is because if you do this, you now have to make more just to make it back, when you would have been up. And then let's say like the next trade you win 2%, and then you lose another 2 trades, so you're still at break even, which is fine. But now if you're down 1.25%, and then you win the next one, and that puts you to still like I'm trying to do the maths in my head, like 0.25% down, and you win the next, you'll be 0.25% down, and then you lose the next 2, now you're down again, and we're here, you're in break even. Do you see what I'm saying? You're playing with your edge and your results over a long period of time. That's what I'm saying. Just stick to a normal risk. And I hope this example made sense, because what I'm trying to say and prove through this chart is that if you know your system has an edge and a positive win rate, and over a period of time it's going to play out and you will get the results, then just let it happen. You have to let it happen and just play out and stick to the system, and you will get those results. Because playing with the risk is just playing with the edge. It fiddles your results. Where you could have been up 0.5%, now you're down 2.5% just because you wanted to halve the risk. And yes, maybe you could have lost all of these and been down more, but again, over a long period of time you should be up. You see what I'm saying? So that is why I don't really encourage. I understand why it can happen, but in my opinion, if you have trust in your system, and I could make a full 1-hour video and talking about probabilities into how detailed you can go, and really talk about why this can be negative and stuff, but I just want you to understand the baseline and how it works. And yeah, if you want me to go into more detail of this, yes I can. I know I've said a lot, but again, if you want to handle drawdown, you need to have those other things covered. Like the trust is very, very important. That's probably the most thing, because if you're in drawdown and you trust your system and you trust yourself and you trust what you're doing, you're just going to continue doing the thing. Because if you have a lack of trust, you're just going to fumble and trying to start doing your own thing, because you don't trust your system enough to continue doing it. So you'll be like, oh, I'm in drawdown, let me now figure something out. So please just trust the system, stick to what you know, and journal correctly. And yes, you're not going to finish this video and say, oh, I know how to handle drawdown, but you're going to know the steps to how to get to that area, if that makes sense. It's not a thing of like tomorrow you'll wake up and if you're in drawdown, oh, I can handle it. It's something you have to work towards. This is what trading is. You have to work to these levels. And I hope what I said and explained made sense. And I know a lot of the stuff I said is what people do, but a lot of people don't do it properly, or they try to cheat themselves out and cheat in the journaling. I know some people don't even journal at all. Many people don't even journal at all. So when drawdown comes, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know their past stats. They don't know how many drawdowns they've been in. If you've been in 15 drawdowns and you've got out of all 15 of them, that's amazing. You know, that's proof that the system works if you stick to it. If you have no proof of what you've done in the past, what do you have to look back on? You know, you see you're trading blindly, in my opinion, because you don't have nothing to prove that okay, this works. It's legit, pure blind trading. So this is why journaling is so important. I really hope this all made sense. You know, I've said a lot. I don't want these videos to just be me just yapping, even though I feel like what I'm saying is valuable. But I really hope this helps you guys. And you know, again, any questions or whatever you want to talk about, please just feel free to message me. Um, and yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video, which will be another one question. And I want more questions and more video suggestions on what you guys want. I just want to provide value and just help you guys as much as I can. So yeah, I'm just gonna stop speaking now, and peace.